degrees out.
Trying to get to work.
Yeah, typical. Hello everybody and welcome to this week's edition of Ray's Tech Tips. Ray, did you see how I didn't put a number on that?
I know, you said that before.
Wow, we were... Can you believe a week has passed since 10 minutes ago?
Yeah.
And you haven't made a whole lot of progress on this thing in that week.
Oh man, look, you ain't looking close enough. Look down over that.
Okay, yeah, it's getting cleaner. We'll put it on the bill. A week's worth of cleaning. So I guess you checked the fuse blocks, and you actually gave them a passing grade. You decided that they were all nice and happy and tight.
Yeah, they are, man. Look at that. They're not cracking or anything.
You're going to leave them alone, although you did pull out all the fuses because most of them were wrong, and yeah, so on and so forth with that.
Yeah, most of them were wrong values.
Other than that, you're just cleaning your way down. You're cleaning and adjusting. You had this bank out. You washed it, and now I guess you're adjusting. You're filing the points and adjusting them as you put them back in.
It's a preliminary thing, but it will serve to head off multiple problems that it probably has.
Sure. Well, again, with the age of this machine, all of those points are going to be corroded, and you're not going to get it all in the first try here. But you have a procedure that you go through as far as cleaning, filing, and adjusting, by eye, and then, later on when we're getting towards the end of this machine, it's not going to everything work the first time you turn it on. You'll be chasing for fine-tune adjustments, I'm guessing.
Probably, you're right. But I got one more bank to do.
Okay.
This bank's almost done.
I don't think you've run into any needed repairs on that bank yet.
I'll look down over the wires last to make sure there's no wires coming off or close. I usually do that last when I'm done handling the relays. You can do it beforehand, but you might still bend one.
Yeah, you handle it again and you create a new problem.
Yeah, so you want to make sure that you left all you look down over it and left all your wires out of the way of each other, and none of these are leaned or bent over. You're going to often find a lot of technicians do this.
Oh yeah, put their hand on it.
As they're working on it, and this is a sign of somebody doing that, because the wires aren't like that naturally. They're standing
up. Yeah.
And if you see this all flattened over, then you see evidence somebody leaning on it.
And that step is no different than it is for a solid state. If you're doing a solid state machine underneath, look for the same thing: handling damage where leaf switches are grounded to each other, and look for that stuff. If you're not familiar with when the last time the machine was turned on, look for that stuff before you turn it on. Yes, no, maybe so?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well that's cool.
This is another failure that you see people do. If you look down over the little end stop here, which is supposed to be there, you see how it's not there?
Okay.
Somebody bent the heck out of some of the main leaf supports that go through this.
Okay, so the whole thing is bent.
The whole thing is torqued. So you've got to actually lean all these back just a little bit. You don't want to put a hump in them like I did there. You want to make sure it's straight. But you want to lean them all back.
So that it rests at home position.
Yeah, because all these are contributing to that not
snapping
going there.
Back. Yeah, okay.
This is another failure of a switch. Somebody was in here and leaned on that and bent them all. Because these little things are strong, and they pull from the center of this metal, so they even got more of an advantage than you do out here.
Okay.
When they pull closed, they're substantial coils. People think they're too weak because of their size. They're not. They pull strong.
Okay.
Now you're ready to adjust your point gap, which is obviously way too wide because somebody bent this wrong.
Yeah, the whole thing was out.
Now this is kind of an important relay because this is the ball return relay.
I don't know what that means, but okay.
It starts players and it kicks the solenoid out for the ball.
Okay.
And it tracks the ball step unit. It does everything.
Okay.
Without this, the way this was, this game wouldn't have worked.
Down.
Right. And it was that way from when we got it. And somebody compensated it probably by adjusting these gaps wrong, but I don't think it would even work then because these are very small throw gaps. And the way they had it bent out of place, not at rest, it wasn't right.
Okay.
So now we just averted the main problem right here. And this is the kind of stuff on an EM that you can do to save you from trying to hunt a problem that may be hard to find later when it's together.
Sure.
And this is where EMs get a bad name because basic core stuff like this is abused, forgotten.
Yeah, well, what you're seeing here is, you know, if you went to repair this in the field, it's impossible. It really does need an overhaul of all of it. And as you're going down that line there, you're fixing a list of problems that you wouldn't necessarily be able to or to try to diagnose with the machine together and running because there'd just be too many. Did that make sense, whatever I just said?
Yeah, and I am expected at certain times to do that, and it just matters a lot of hours.
Yeah.
I'll spend 5 to 7 hours on this in the field to get it to work because people will expect that.
But you'll in effect do the same thing you're doing here. When you see that's pile of problems, you'll go down and you'll adjust, you'll do what you're doing here.
Yep.
Just to find out where you stand, where, you know, yeah.
That's right. But each one of these contacts has a result to do a game function, and sometimes they're dependent on each other. And what makes it more difficult is some of these are momentary, and they're not supposed to be out of place when this rotates to fire or receive a signal.
Okay.
So it's not just finding a point set that's going to be bad or wrong, but a matter of timing involved with this. That's what makes CMs a little more difficult in somebody's eyes than others, because there is timing involved. Electronics really don't have any timing. It's always waiting.
Yeah.
Because the processor pulses the circuit in a matter of milliseconds to see what's happening, and it does gameplay functions according to that. So it's always waiting. This is not. If this misses the point at which this should happen, and it don't happen, it ain't gonna happen.
Okay. Well, how is that timing controlled? Where is, when you say it would be out of time, where would it be out of time? In other words, what would cause the failure that you just described?
If some points are out of place, you're trying to start a game. If this does not give the instruction and receive this in time, it will not reset the back box. The game won't start.
Okay.
So what it is you have to recognize that if there's something wrong here and your game doesn't work, you wouldn't go there. You would actually preliminarily do this. You wouldn't fault this. Most people go right to the score motor and say, well, that's always where it is.
Because it's just sitting there going, it just keeps spinning. And
that's waiting to, yeah. That's
it's waiting for one of these other things that's off.
Yeah, common
Not
failure
working.
in this game would be this would just keep going.
Seen that a million times.
Yeah, you hear it too. You hear people call and say, I got the machine
It won't
keeps
stop
running.
spinning, yeah.
Right. And then a lot of times that's what you get.
That's because something else ain't reporting and saying, hey, stop.
Right. It's waiting for the sequence to happen, and it isn't happening. Partial sequence happened and not others. And they have latch relays too, which have steps. This is the second player relay, and this will latch when you get a second player. There are a couple of these relays in this machine. Not all of them are momentary. Not all of them go in and out once.
Okay.
There are latch solenoids.
So that's one.
It's a two-step.
That fires on, fires off.
So these are a little more critical. They only use these.
Oh, and I see they do it with two coils. It fires on and latches, and then the other coil releases it back.
Right.
Okay. That's neat.
A few places in these they do that with. They had to do this to incorporate some of the features as the EM got more complicated. You won't see these too much in earlier games. They didn't need it.
Okay.
Older games like this, changeover games in the mid-70s, late 70s, you'll see this a lot. They just couldn't make the machine do what they wanted.
Well, we were talking about that earlier off camera about how during the changeover it must have been exciting times in the pinball at the pinball manufacturers. I guess maybe almost from top to bottom. Assembly changed. I think the biggest changes would be on the design end.
Yeah.
And I'm just suspecting that a lot of designers at that point got blown out. Hey, either you accept this change, you know, the old guys. It was time for the old guys to leave at that point, Ray. I'm suspecting, and the new guys, you know, they had a wealth of new opportunities as to what they could do open up to them, and they grabbed a hold of it pretty fast. I mean, look at Centaur, Ray. We've talked about that machine several times. You know, that wasn't too far different from years wise. That was what, 3 years newer than this?
Yeah.
In 3 years they went from this to Centaur. So it must have been exciting times there at the designers, and I bet a lot of people quit and said, I don't like this shit.
Yeah, that's what happened to Seeburg. That's why they got out of the jukebox industry totally, because the core of their design team didn't accept electronics well. Seeburg toward the end there made a couple different electronic CD boxes. They were probably known as the SCD1A through H.
Okay.
And they got out of it because they just got to a point to where they didn't want to do it. They didn't accept the technology, didn't want to change with it, and they shut the thing down.
Yeah.
It happened probably in this industry too.
Well, we see it. You know, Gottlieb was the first to give up on the solid state pins, weren't they? First major. They were the king of the EMs, but then they were never the king of the solid states for damn sure.
Yeah, they did sort of give up on
Yeah,
that.
they didn't make the change over well at all.
Yeah, they just went along with trying to make a pin to sell, and they lacked in their audio design, their gameplay design. Yeah, they fell behind everywhere. I mean, Bally far surpassed them in all that, and so did Williams. But yeah, Gottlieb sort of just
didn't make the changeover well.
no, and then the company got passed around, I suppose. And
Although we do see that they figured out the electronics, because there's nothing more durable than a System 3 Gottlieb that I know of.
no, mechanically or really electronically.
But I think by that time it was too late. Everybody was pretty much the Bally Williams guys had already emerged, and yeah.
This plug, by the way, is not labeled. Usually is.
Okay, what's it do?
Well,
It does that.
it goes to this motor, which is this
Yeah.
score motor,
Okay.
play motor, whatever you want to call it. I call it a score motor. It has a dead position, which is no wire on it, and it has an on position, which is live. This is a service tool. You can put it in a dead position and hand cycle it, because you can't do that with a motor plugged in, because when it reaches the trip switch,
Oh, it runs.
and you can't see what's going on here.
Neat.
This way you can go, this has sectors and switch sectors, and they're labeled here, position 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, okay.
And it also has stacks, A through H, because there's several on top of each other, and you know, it comes apart to
serviceable,
service. Yeah, you can see. And what it's for is, if you know what's wrong with your game and you're good enough on these, you actually can manually cycle it and watch to see if things are happening. So that's a motor switch.
That's a service piece. Yeah, for
They
service.
deliberately did that to offer service,
Neat.
and most OEMs have that, and that's for the tech that knows enough to manually position this and find out what's
You find out what's going on. Okay, and you've used that.
occasionally, not a lot. I find out I don't need it. I sort of go to
Yeah, you kind of do everything, or
I
yeah,
go to where I find normal failures, and I look for something that somebody did, you know. But I start where I start first, and then go. I usually don't have no problem with it.
So is the difference between EMs and solid states as far as repair is concerned, that on an EM more things follow kind of an upstream downstream type of thing, where, what am I trying to say here? One problem causes the next one in line, causes the next one in line, and you have to trace failures back more than you would on a solid state.
Yeah.
I don't think that made sense the way I said it.
No, but there are more chain reactions involved in
Right.
these things.
Yeah, I think that's what. Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
And the reason that people get discouraged with them is, and this is true from a hobbyist standpoint or a business that's trying to do it, is that happens. And you get discouraged when you're in there doing something and you cause more problems than what you started with. That's characteristic of these. And these do that. They will do that.
But the flip side of that is you don't cause. Yeah, working on these is not nearly as they're harder to destroy.
They're cheaper.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're not going to get in there and you're not going to destroy something by working on it. You get in a solid state machine and you touch a screwdriver from here to there, you destroy stuff.
Yeah, circuit boards that aren't worth repairing nowadays.
Well, you can blow up a circuit board that you just put in.
Yeah, that has changed nowadays with solid state stuff and the advent of board replacement.
Whereas here, you go in there fooling around. You might mess up, but you're not really going to hurt anything.
No, you can't do any major damage, really.
Blow a fuse, maybe.
Yeah, that's it. You're not going to destroy a transformer or any controlling part. Yeah, a solid state doesn't forgive you any way that way. We make a mistake and you can destroy expensive stuff. And sometimes it's repairable sensibly,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's not. Most of the time it's not. If you destroy a new circuit board you put in, it's going to have a fair amount of surface mount chips on it, and it'll punish you to repair it in the way of labor hours, sitting at a bench repairing a board that you might as well replace for
Yeah.
50, whatever it is, $50, $100, $200.
Yeah, we send boards back to like Rotten Dog and Nywumph and I don't know. Have they ever sent you back
I didn't get my
a repaired board, or they
Yes.
just?
No.
Oh, do they? Do they repair them sometimes?
Yep, Dave sent all them. Remember the 7 Nywumphs I sent back?
Uh-huh.
The System 80s and 1s? He sent them all back.
You didn't give you new ones?
Nope.
Okay. Well,
I'm waiting for Alltech to send me back my 2 dead. Remember them 2 dead ones?
yeah. Well, then my point's not too good there, but yeah, you can work on this without a whole lot of fear of causing major damage, which is kind of nice. And a lot of the stuff is not like you can make mistakes on solid state that you wouldn't think you were doing anything wrong, like what you said about these Gottlieb displays, where you can't unplug a display or plug a display in with the game on.
Always.
Like, who the hell would think that you couldn't do that, Ray?
Yeah, I've always done it.
They should put a big stinking warning sticker there. Do not unplug this with the game on, because shit.
I have learned to do it, not do it. I used to do it on the fly with Bally Williams, and
Well, that's a common way to test things. Is wiggle a connector, or because of all the problems you have with connectors on these games. That's one thing you chase for problems, is you unplug and plug connectors back in to look for oxidation there and to find that that's the problem.
True.
And then you come to find out that, oh shit, I can't do that on a Gottlieb display. What? And you blow up the board. Now you're chasing other problems.
You blow up the Z1 through Z4 chips. They're upper right on the board. System 80 or System 1.
I'm guessing you found that out the hard way, or found out from somebody who found out the hard way.
I did it once. And it won't smoke anything. You'll just get segments either out or on all the time. There's documentation of it on the internet, and you're right. Gottlieb never documented it. You can almost bet, though, if you
That
do
they
it,
heard about it.
yeah, you can't do it with a Gottlieb. And
Yeah, and
you've
I'm-
got to wait for the power up, and it's
Yeah, and I'm sure Bally Williams and I'm sure all the other ones had the similar quirks as to don't do this and don't do that. So that's a nice thing about working on these EMs. You ain't got to be a whole lot of concerned about what you're doing.
problem with these is, Mike, nobody in mainstream wants the EMs anymore because of the game simplicity they like.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't offer, their most complicated game doesn't even offer what the least solid state game did.
Sure.
So your demand is gonna wane on these.
Yeah, they've become a complete novelty. They're just novelty at this point. They're not for playing enjoyment. They're novelty.
Mainstream, I won't even go into the collector realm. Mainstream game buyers that have families and pins, and they don't really want it.
Yeah, they don't even really want the early solid state stuff.
Yeah, they like 90s stuff.
Yeah,
that's the core.
Yeah, come in, late 80s, late 80s and up.
So it's changing.
And I agree with that. I mean, those games are fun. Although, Jimmy and I have talked till we're blue in the face about this, is they've actually, in our collective opinion, I think Jim would agree with me on this, they've gone too far.
Yeah, it's too much.
The rule sets have gotten to be like, you got to read a novel to try to figure out.
Look at Johnny Mnemonic's one that comes to mind. How the hell do you know what?
Yeah, well, and that's mid-90s. It's worse now. These Stern titles that are coming out, they've got rules.
Yeah, okay.
They've got rule sets as long as your arm.
You never even get through the.
Yeah,
forget about getting to the wizard mode or the end of the game. You can't even get enough to know what.
Yeah, good luck figuring out what you're supposed to do. I don't see where the fun is in that, Ray. I like Jim's Elvira Party Monsters. It's got just enough rules that you can figure them out. And if you want to have 3 or 4 beers while you're playing pinball, at your 4th beer you still have some sort of clue what you're supposed to do.
Well, even just playing, you just can't. I agree. You just can't get to the.
But I guess that's sign of the times in there, Ray. I walk by your son in there and he's playing. I don't know what the hell he's playing.
That's too complicated.
But I look at that for 2 seconds and I'm like, what the hell is this? It says I think he said it was World of Warcraft or something. But it's like, wow, that's just too technical for me. I guess I'm getting old.
This is what he's 19. This is what they want. They want that. That generation gets to be our age. They ain't gonna want this.
No,
sorry
for damn
to
sure.
say.
No, they won't even look at it when they walk by it.
Enjoy this while it's around. All the people that have interest in it, because it's gonna change up. It's what it is. It's just like wow. In the day, Model T4. Yeah. Now, what?
Now who cares?
No.
And we're seeing the onset of it. The video games have gone away tough. Yeah. They're gone.
Oh yeah.
And you know what, Ray? I used to think that they would bounce back at some point because enough of them would get thrown out. If enough of them get thrown out, they'll become rare. But I don't think that's going to be an answer for them. I think they're just done.
No, and the reason they're done is you've got old parts to fix more old parts that have failed.
Yeah.
What do you think the old parts are?
They're getting too difficult and expensive to repair.
There's no support from a manufacturing level.
Yeah, and the finished product is just like, wow, is that all?
There's no parts support. And then let's speak of the monitor. Let's speak of the other end of the thing. All right, as glass tubes disappear, which they will, and the stuff that is left to be repaired is harder and not worth fixing at any stage.
Yeah, that'll be the end of it.
The aspect ratio of a glass tube compared to an LCD or LED is totally wrong.
Yeah.
The bigger it is, the worse it gets. 19s and 13s, the aspect ratio is still usable. When you get into a 26, a 27, or a 33, which is what most of your games are.
Yeah, these big ones.
Yeah, that's a 27. Most of your video games are 27. That aspect ratio is 4:3, the ratio.
Okay, instead of 16 to 9.
Yeah, and if you get bigger, it's worse because your formatting is spreading out and less high. Now, actually, that makes
the difference gets magnified by the size.
Well, how are you going to fit that in the artwork of that?
You ain't.
It's going to look like.
No.
Now, the nice thing about it is they couldn't do it with that technology because a glass tube doesn't fit that formatting. Okay, you can't make that.
Right.
Okay, that's why that was made that way, basically. But you didn't need to. But the 16 by 9, which is wide and short, is much more sensible of a design for the graphics that's generating, because that's a driving game. You're supposed to have a wide field of view. You're driving. That's narrow. That makes no sense. The logic is the width is suitable for that.
Well, Ray, I think that's kind of going to end up being irrelevant because I think they're all going to go away.
Now your new
yeah,
Raw Thrills games do have, like you saw the footage of Frank's super cars.
yeah, big fancy unit. You know what?
It looks great because it's
Yeah, when
that way.
are they going to pull the plug on that? Because I don't know who's buying them.
I don't know.
Because you see the
I
operator.
see operators turning them in before the lease is up.
Yeah, and every year there's less and less operators. They're going away, man. They are going away.
They can't generate.
They're going away in
It's simple
droves.
economics, Mike. You can't generate income on a leased product enough to keep it working and have profit and pay the lease. It's going to crash and burn sooner or later because it's not.
And I think that seeing the megas go away is going to be a sign for the rest of that stuff too.
Yeah, nobody ever would have thought. These people that had a lot to say about that.
Because the mega was their strong player.
It was a major hit. Yeah. And these other folks that are doing the video thing, they're gonna.
I mean, the megas outsold something like an F&F 50-1.
Yep. In the day, they made more than any F&F.
Yeah. They brought it. They earned. And volume of operators would buy 50 megas before they'd buy one F&F.
So whether it's good or bad, this is something
it's going away.
That is considered. That's to be considered when you're buying or repairing a game like a video game, unless you really have to have it.
Yeah, and for it,
but also, you must know it's expensive. It's not cheap. Don't go to an auction and buy a $50 game and think you're going to hire somebody like myself to fix it for another $50. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I de-emphasize video game calls because it doesn't do the uneducated buyer any good to suggest that, well, he's got a problem. I can fix them all day long. There are other businesses that are practicing this type of thing. It's a dead end. It's not servicing a customer. You must educate them and let them make a bad money move because that's what they are.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have one here that we're friendly with, and he runs around to the auctions and he buys these things for $5 a piece.
Yeah, I'm
and working. They'll be working it now. Again, we can go into the definition of working. But they'll be at the auction. They'll be turned on, and they will. They'll be on.
Game running a track mode picture.
So in that definition of working, he'll be buying those for $5 or $10 a piece, and he'll run them up and he'll drop them off up there at TNT or wherever else he's dropping them off at. And what do they do to it? I don't know. Maybe they drop a power supply in it. Probably. Wipe it down and out it goes. Well, that ain't. That ain't the answer, man. I think the answer is it's just they need to go away, and it's a shame because a lot of people have
their place.
Yeah, a lot of people have fondness for those old games, but you know what? They really are becoming unserviceable.
I serviced them from '98 until basically now.
Yeah.
And I won't do too many anymore. I must qualify the call.
Well, yeah. I mean, when I say unserviceable, I don't mean that they're impossible to service. It's just that they're not. It's not reasonable the amount of effort it takes to service them properly, and then even then any component that you have not replaced is on borrowed time at best. And that even goes for the newer shit like the F&Fs. Boy, they're after you, Ray.
They're terrible. They're hard to fix, Mike.
Yeah.
They're still supported, but even with that said, they're hard to fix.
So I guess the tech tip here, if my only suggestion is, besides get what you like, but if you're teeter-tottering between video game or pinball machine, you're a whole lot better off with pinball machine.
It's a more supported venue.
I went through that.
Better money spent.
On Christmas sales with the guy who bought the F&Fs. He bought the F&Fs and a pin. But that sale started off as one or the other, and I steered him into the pin. The pin's going to hold its value. At very least, it's going to hold its value.
Yeah, I sold him the F&Fs.
Yeah, the F&Fs are headed to zero. That's just the truth. They're headed to zero.
Yeah. They were a fun device. It all depends on what you want to spend and what you expect out of it.
All right, I interrupted you. What are you doing?
I got the spank done.
Okay, that
Board's
bank's done.
I just have to do this, the resistor, this here bank really,
Okay.
and the fuse values, and this is ready to go back in
All right.
after line cord.
Hi, we hope you've enjoyed this video. If you haven't already subscribed, what are you waiting for? Want to know what's coming next? Go like us on Facebook right now. You can keep up to date with all of us here at the shop and what we've been up to. Thank you for watching.